Greetings of the day. I'm Shikha Sharma, a research scholar from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, New Delhi. It's a privilege to share this work under the guidance of Professor Dr. KDP Singh, submitted to the University of Greenwich. The topic is Heritage Preservation and Interpretation, a case study of India. In the next few minutes, I invite you on a journey across time through stories etched in stones and struggles written in policy. Together, we will explore India's challenges in conserving its heritage, compare its legal framework with United Kingdom's, and reflect on economic power of heritage as a tool for sustainable development.
Let's begin with a simple question. Have you ever stood in front of an ancient monument and wondered, who walked here before me? What lives unfolded in this very space? I had that moment once, standing at the Ghats of Varanasi. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden sheen over the Ganges. The chants of priests echoed through the misty air, and suddenly I didn't feel like a tourist. I felt like I had stepped into something timeless, a living continuum of culture and memory. Heritage sites like these are not just bricks and stones, they are vessels of memory, identity, and belonging. They give shape to our collective past and offer meaning to our present. Public spaces and heritage monuments tell stories not through words but through atmosphere, ritual, and presence. Preserving such spaces is not merely about protecting structures, it is about ensuring that the dialogue between the past and the present continues. It is a way for one generation to speak to the next. This presentation is framed around three key areas. First, the challenges that India faces today in conserving and interpreting its vast and diverse cultural heritage. Second, a comparative look at the legal frameworks of India and the UK, what we can learn from each other, and what best practices emerge. And third, we'll explore why heritage matters not just culturally but economically, how preservation can be a driver of sustainable development and community empowerment. Let's begin this journey into the world of heritage, where time stands still yet speaks volume. India's heritage is astonishing in its scale and diversity. From Himalayan monasteries to coastal forts, stepwells in arid plains to rock-cut caves deep in forests. But preserving this legacy isn't easy. Let me take you to Shahjahanabad, Old Delhi. I remember walking through its narrow lanes, the scent of street food mixing with dust, past crumbling havelis, age-old mosques, and colonial era facades. And what caught my attention wasn't just the historic charm, it was slow decay. Bright neon signboards jutting from century old balconies, a maze of overhead wires strangling domes and arcs. Urbanization isn't just changing the skyline, it's erasing memory, one wall at a time. Then there's the issue of uneven funding. We all know that Taj Mahal gleams under regular care, but few have heard of Bhateshwar temples in Madhya Pradesh, a stunning complex of over 200 temples, many of them rescued from collapse by passionate archaeologists, often with minimal support. Heritage shouldn't be preserved only when it's famous. Climate change adds another layer of urgency. Acid rain, heat waves, and increasing humidity are accelerating decay. Remember the stories of Taj Mahal's marble turning yellow? That's just the tip of iceberg. Rising water levels threaten coastal forts, and Himalayan monasteries face landslides. But perhaps the most invisible challenge is lack of public awareness. I once visited a beautifully carved 14th century stepwell tucked away in Delhi, only to find it used as a dumping ground. Not out of malice, but because no one had told the residents that they were living next to the piece of medieval engineering. And finally, tourism, essential yet demanding. Sites like Amer Fort in Jaipur welcome thousands every day, but without adequate crowd management, visitor education, or maintenance cycle, the very traffic that brings revenue begins to erode the stone. These challenges, environmental, administrative, and cultural, don't exist in isolation, they intersect. And they remind us that preserving heritage requires not just policies but participation. Let's now take a broader view beyond borders. India is a part of global community that shares a responsibility to protect cultural heritage, and this shared commitment is reflected in international conventions. The 1970 UNESCO Convention aims to stop the illegal export of cultural property. This isn't just a theory, it works. A few years ago, India succeeded in bringing back the stolen Natarajan idol from Museum of United States. That moment of heritage coming home was not only symbolic, it was justice. Then there is the 1972 World Heritage Convention, which recognizes sites of outstanding universal value. India currently has 42 World Heritage Sites, ranging from ancient caves and temples to forests and forts. When I visited the Sanchi Stupa, its quiet grandeur under the Madhya Pradesh, I realized that World Heritage status is more than the title. It brings global funding, tourism, expert guidance, and international attention. The 1954 Hague Convention, though designed for protecting heritage in times of armed conflict, has relevance even today. It reminds us to prepare to safeguard heritage from natural disaster, political instability, and unforeseen crises. Think of heritage sites in Uttarakhand or Konark Temple, facing threats not from the war but from climate and time. These frameworks give us structure and support, but they are only as strong as our ability to align domestic efforts with them. That's where the legal comparison between India and countries like the UK becomes crucial. Because sometimes the best way to improve is to learn from those walking parallel paths. When we place India and the United Kingdom side by side, we see two very different philosophies in how heritage is protected, but both are deeply committed. In India, the protection of heritage is not just a legal matter, it is a constitutional responsibility. Article 51A, Clause F of our Constitution reminds every citizen that it is their fundamental duty to value and preserve its rich heritage of our composite culture. That's powerful. It makes preservation not just the government's job, but everyone's. India's legal backbone is robust. The Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act (AMASR) safeguards monuments over 100 years old. The Antiquities and Art Treasures Act controls the export and sale of historical objects. Even the Old Treasure Trove Act, dating back to colonial times, still plays a role. At the policy level, we have schemes like Hriday, which integrates heritage with urban development, and the local municipal bylaws that aim to protect old structures from reckless modernization. Institutions like Archaeological Survey of India, INTAC, and National Monument Authority serve as the key players, but their approach is often top-down, centralized, and driven by official designation. Now compare that to United Kingdom. The UK doesn't have a constitutional directive. Instead, it relies on clear and comprehensive statutory laws like the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Areas Act and the Planning, Listed Buildings and Conservation Areas Act. What makes their system stand out is the National Planning Policy Framework, a single unified guide that helps local authorities and developers make decisions that respect heritage. And then there's the role of civil society. Groups like Historic England and the National Trust don't just protect buildings, they engage communities, run educational programs, and even train volunteers. Preservation in the UK often begins at the grassroots, where people fight for the identity of their neighborhoods and towns. So, what we learned, India offers a model built on constitutional vision and national leadership. The UK shows the strength of decentralized, community-based management. Each system has its strength and each offers lessons the other can adapt. Because preserving heritage isn't about one perfect model, it's about evolving systems that work in harmony with the people they serve. Legal frameworks lay the foundation, but heritage survives not just in courts and policy papers. It thrives in how it's funded, documented, celebrated, and shared with communities. Let's now look beyond the law at how India and the UK nurture their heritage ecosystems. In India, the approach is growing steadily and creatively. Take the Hriday scheme, Heritage City Development and Augmentation Yojana. It aims to revitalize cities like Varanasi, Amritsar, and Ajmer by integrating heritage into urban planning. The goal is not just beautification, but cultural sustainability. Then there is the National Mission on Monuments and Antiquities, NMMA, a quiet but vital initiative. Its work in documenting thousands of monuments across the country helps protect even those sites not officially recognized, building a vast archive for researchers and planners alike. India also created the National Culture Fund, a platform that encourages private sector participation. Through CSR partnership, businesses can contribute directly to restoration and conservation. This model of public-private synergy is still young but promising. Now, let's turn to the UK. Here, heritage supports goes beyond preservation. It's about storytelling, pride, and public presence. The blue plaque system, for instance, places discrete signs on buildings to honor historic public and events. You might walk by a quiet house and suddenly discover it was once home to Virginia Woolf or Alan Turing. It brings history into daily life. The Townscape Heritage Initiative focuses on regenerating historic urban areas, especially in underserved communities. It combines economic upliftment with conservation, and the Heritage at Risk program identifies vulnerable sites and mobilizes resources to save them before they are lost. When it comes to funding, the differences are striking. India leans on corporate sponsorship, while UK's model is more structured, with government grants, tax reliefs, and even lottery funding playing major roles. This allows for more predictable, long-term financial planning in the UK. Community involvement is another area where models differ. In India, groups like Intact and various local NGOs work passionately, but often with limited resources. In the UK, civic societies and local heritage groups are systematically woven into conservation efforts, from policy consultation to hands-on restoration. And on the international front, both the countries participate, but differently. India adheres to conventions like Hague Convention Act 2010, ensuring heritage is protected even in conflict. The UK, post-Brexit, now follows UNESCO guidelines voluntarily, but stepped away from EU-specific charters. In essence, India champions civic partnerships and flexible models, while the UK complements its legal backbone with well-funded, community-driven outreach. Even system shows that heritage is more than preservation, it's participation, storytelling, and shared responsibility. We often think of heritage as cultural, as something to cherish, protect, and or admire. But it's time we also see it for what it truly is, an economic powerhouse. Let's start with India. Heritage here doesn't just live in monuments, it breathes life into livelihoods. The cultural and the heritage sector contributes over rupees 19.13 trillion to our economy. That's nearly 5% of our GDP. More importantly, it supports over 43 million jobs from artisans to conservators to guides, tour operators, museum staff, and local vendors. That's a 10% increase since 2019, a clear sign that heritage is not fading, it's growing as a sector. And look at tourism. In 2023, despite global uncertainties, 9.2 million international tourists visited India. Many came not just for beaches or festival, but to walk through forts, temples, palaces, and stepwells, to experience our living heritage. Every footstep on these ancient stones ripples outward. supporting small businesses, boosting local economies, and preserving cultural practices. Now, let's look at UK. Though smaller in size, its heritage economy is impressively organized. The sector contributes around Euro 36.6 billion all over, with a direct gross value added of Euro 15.3 billion, making up 0.8% of England's total GVA. It supports over 5,23,000 jobs, from historic building repair to heritage-based creative industries. What stands out in UK is how heritage isn't treated as a niche. It's deeply embedded in domestic and international tourism strategies. From restored castles to industrial museums, from guided tourists and ancient cathedrals to immersive historic experiences, heritage is marketed as experience, education, and identity, all rolled into one. These numbers tell us something powerful. Heritage is not a burden on the budget, it is an engine of growth. It offers employment, generates revenue, and revitalizes communities while also preserving what makes a place unique. So, whether we are looking at India's temple towns or UK's countryside estates, the message is same. Investing in heritage is investing in future. Heritage doesn't just tell stories, it attracts footsteps, and those footsteps fuel economies. Let's begin with India. In 2023, heritage tourism brought in over $30 billion. That's a remarkable figure. But what's more exciting is the projection. By 2030, it's expected to rise to $47.5 billion. This isn't just a reflection of growing tourism, it's a sign that people across the world are increasingly drawn to India's rich tapestry of culture, architecture, and tradition. Funding for heritage in India is largely decentralized. Institutions like National Cultural Fund and INTAC plays leading role, working closely with state bodies, NGOs, and corporations. Initiatives like Hriday integrate heritage into city development, while the Monument Mitra scheme invites private companies to adopt and maintain monuments, blending conservation with CSR. It's a model that encourages partnership rather than relying solely on the state. The UK, in contrast, leans towards centralized public funding, and it does so with remarkable coordination. In 2023, heritage tourism generated Euro 11.6 billion in revenue. That's from the castles, cathedrals, industrial heritage, and living museums that dot the British landscape. But behind the scenes, the support is structured and steady. Organizations like Historic England and the National Lottery Heritage Fund together allocated over Euro 437 million to heritage initiatives that year alone. One standout example is the Edinburgh Old Town Regeneration Project, which received Euro 10 million to restore and revitalize the historic core of the city. This wasn't just a bricks or mortar, it included walkways, lighting, small business support, and education outreach. In the UK, heritage isn't frozen in time, it's built into community development. What do we see when we compare? India is moving towards collaborative public-private engagement, encouraging innovation and civic involvement. The UK shows the power of direct public investment and lottery-based funding, enabling long-term planning and equitable access. Both models remind us of core truth. Investing in heritage pays off economically, socially, culturally. Whether through decentralized partnership or centralized funding, heritage, when supported well, becomes more than memory. It becomes momentum. As we are near the end of this journey, let's pause and reflect, not just on differences, but on possibilities. India and the United Kingdom are two nations with rich, layered histories. But more importantly, they are evolving systems, each with strengths that the other can learn from. India, for instance, can benefit from the UK's clear enforceable, and regularly updated legal frameworks like the Planning Act. These laws ensure that heritage is not just preserved but meaningfully integrated into everyday planning. Public funding is another area. The UK's Heritage Lottery Fund, backed by national coordination and clear disbursement channels, offers a level of structured financial support that India is still working toward. Adopting such a model could help make conservation efforts more predictable and equitable. The UK's community network, its civic trust, neighbourhood heritage groups, and educational partnerships show how deeply heritage can be embedded in local identity. And with tools like GIS mapping, virtual reconstructions, and digital heritage archives, the UK has shown how technology can bring history to life. But the learning goes both ways. The UK can look to India's example in recognizing the legally protecting intangible cultural heritage, from oral traditions and performing arts to festivals and craft skills. This broader definition of heritage ensures that living traditions and preserved alongside ancient walls. India also offers cost-effective conservation methods, often developed out of necessity but rooted in sustainability. Its grassroots models, such as Intact's locally driven chapters, show how non-profits and civil societies can fill gaps left by bureaucracy and do so with passion and precision. Even India's unique mix of offline and digital engagement, think of heritage walks, mobile exhibitions, WhatsApp audio tours, offers a blueprint for inclusive, multilingual, and accessible outreach. So, what's the takeaway? Heritage isn't bound by borders, and neither is learning. By exchanging best practices, both India and UK can become not just better custodians of their own histories, but more collaborative participants in the global heritage community. In this shared journey of preservation, dialogue is the greatest tool. Heritage doesn't exist in isolation, it thrives in exchange. And just as we compare laws and funding, we must also look at how tourism, urban planning, and public outreach can be shared and strengthened through collaboration. India, for example, has much to learn from UK's remarkable success in heritage branding. From the winding lanes of Oxford to the cliffs of Dover, the UK sells its past as experience, with clear narratives, consistent visual identity, and a sense of continuity. Programs like the Townscape Heritage Initiative doesn't just restore, they revitalize with clear goals and community upliftment at their heart. Then there's the Blue Plague Scheme, a small gesture with big impact. It links everyday spaces with historic people and moments, reminding citizens that history is always close by. Coupled with the school outreach programs, it fosters historic curiosity early, making heritage a part of growing up. But the learning is mutual. The UK can take cues from India's rich experiential tourist circuits, especially those rooted in religion, pilgrimage, and lived culture. Whether it's a spiritual pull of Varanasi or the architectural wonders of Hampi, India transforms heritage into deeply immersive journey that blends culture, faith, and memory. India's Hriday scheme also offers inspiration, integrating urban planning with cultural identity. Streetscapes, waterfronts, signage, and lighting, everything is designed with heritage in mind. It's not preserving around a monument, it's planning with the monument at the center. Beyond infrastructure, India's intangible heritage diplomacy is worth noting. From yoga and Ayurveda to craft clusters and folk traditions, India has made its living traditions part of global identity. And in outreach, its use of local languages, grassroots campaigns, and community-led walks create inclusive connection between people and place. In the end, these aren't just techniques, these are philosophies. They remind us that heritage is not just about monuments, it's about meaning. It's about how people see themselves in landscapes, in a story, in a shared past. And when we bring together global best practices, we don't just protect the past, we shape a richer, more connected future.
Let me close with this. Heritage is not just about walls and stones, it is about identity, resilience, and memory. When we restore a monument, we also restore pride. When we interpret our culture, we strengthen our roots. India and the UK, despite different contexts, have much to offer each other and much to learn together. I hope this presentation leaves you with not just information but a question: what will we leave behind and for whom? Thanks for listening.